We've all seen the Facebook posts where friends and family go to visit a third world country for 1 to 2 weeks to volunteer. This is a new tourism trend called volunteer tourism. It builds off of the idea that many people who can afford to visit third world countries on vacation also wish to help the impoverished communities in the countries they visit. Volunteer tourism results in a boost to the nation's economy and sees new and permanent houses, schools, hospitals, and orphanages being built for the community. Many groups will also bring toys, clothes, shoes, and other materials as gifts for the people they are helping. However, certain organizations are more interested in the money being made from these tourists rather than the good being done for the community. This can result in exploitation of native culture, a never-ending line of volunteers coming in and out of the community, crumbling buildings built by volunteers with little to no contracting experience, and negative lasting effects on the communities, especially the children. Having Western travelers come visit and work in third world communities will sometimes result in the exploitation of the native culture. Many people want to travel to places they see as exotic or different than their normal lives. This results in some traditions and practices being commercialized to increase the number of tourists. The culture of these communities is also attacked when travelers come with the intent to save the community rather than to help. Some travelers want to come to these communities to change their ancient traditions and convert them to a more westernized lifestyle. This is often referred to as the white man's burden. However, this can cause resentment between volunteers and the community, as volunteers do not take the chance to learn and appreciate the native culture. The travelers that come to these communities often intend to help and serve the community as best as they can. These people are willing to spend thousands of dollars to travel halfway across the world to help strangers in impoverished communities. Most of these participants are typically young college students or recent retirees. Many are backpackers who decided they wanted to volunteer during their time abroad. Most volunteers typically stay in their location for 1 to 2 weeks. The short-term stays result in simple projects being completed, as it is difficult to complete substantial work in 2 weeks. Most of these trips include day trips and excursions, which can take away from the time the volunteers have to work on their projects. Many of these volunteers also lack some of the necessary skills to truly contribute to the community. Whether it's building a new school or providing medical assistance or interacting with children, very few tourists have the necessary qualifications to truly help their communities. There is also controversy surrounding orphanage tourism. Seeing the faces of poor children begging on the streets tugs on everyone's heartstrings. The thought that an individual can help a child often draws more people than building a house. Very few children in these impoverished communities in third world countries have access to education or a stable home life. Volunteers come to teach the children, play, and give them love and affection while they are working. While the individual time, affection, and material goods brought by volunteers cause an immediate positive effect on the lives of these children, the long-term effects can be potentially devastating. The growing popularity of orphanage tourism has spread to the outer villages of these countries, and children are now leaving their families to enter orphanages in the hopes of being sponsored for an education by a Western tourist. Other children in orphanages experience a sense of abandonment after they are loved and cared for 2 weeks, but then are left alone until the next group of volunteers arrive. The consequences of volunteer tourism create the question, is it better to donate money to organizations or personally go and volunteer yourself? Both of these options have their own strengths and weaknesses. By sending Western volunteers, there is a unique personal connection that can be made between volunteers and the community members. However, this often brings the risk of the white man's burden, which creates tension between the volunteers and the community, or the projects that are completed are not beneficial. However, when pledging money to organizations to employ community members or outside employees with proper qualifications, the money is sometimes not distributed promptly. After the 7.5 earthquake in Haiti in 2010, $15 million were pledged from around the world for reconstruction and disaster relief. However, in the 7 years since this disaster, less than half of the money has been distributed, as officials fear the Haitian government and organizations are not prepared to handle that much money. Volunteer tourism provides a unique experience for Western travelers and impoverished communities to experience new cultures, make personal connections with strangers, and provide necessary services for the communities. Many organizations provide safe and effective volunteer tourism opportunities that provide once-in-a-lifetime experiences for tourists that also help the community. However, as this trend grows in popularity, other organizations do not complete the proper research or communicate with the community in ways to provide the best service possible. This can result in tension and resentment as citizens see volunteers shuffled in and out of their communities serving their individual purpose. Volunteer tourism can be beneficial for all parties involved when each individual is dedicated to helping others and experiencing a different culture, rather than doing what they think is best and enforcing their own values and beliefs. This is not meant to discourage people from volunteering abroad. However, research is critical to ensure that your money and time are being spent in the best and most helpful and effective way possible.